At the start of the film, Furiosa is out picking peaches with a friend when they hear an unusual noise. Despite her friend's suggestion to ignore it, Furiosa decides to investigate and discovers a gang of motorcycle bandits. Recognizing the threat, she quickly sabotages one of their bikes by cutting the gas pipe. However, before she can disable another bike, a biker named Toe Jam catches her. To defend herself, Furiosa stabs his legs and tries to flee, blowing a whistle to alert the villagers. Unfortunately, Toe Jam uses a whip to capture her. Mary, Furiosa's mother, along with some warriors, immediately pursues the bikers on horseback. Mary manages to dismount a biker with her sword and takes his bike. Before heading off to rescue Furiosa, she receives a large supply of ammunition from the village leader. On her way, Mary shoots another biker from a distance, causing the remaining two to stop and investigate. When they see Mary approaching, they flee, allowing Mary to quickly repair the damaged bike with parts from the one she seized and ensure she has enough fuel to continue. As night falls, one of the bikes runs out of gas, leading to an argument among the men. While they are preoccupied, Furiosa manages to free herself from her bindings and escapes. Sadly, she is recaptured by the bikers the next day. Mary locates the bikers' hideout and eliminates several guards before reaching Furiosa's tent. There, she defeats another guard but feels sympathy for a woman cleaning Furiosa, who reveals she is also a victim and a mother. Just as Mary and Furiosa are about to leave, the cleaning woman alerts the camp. A guard opens fire on Mary, igniting a fuel barrel and setting her clothes ablaze. Mary is forced to remove them before making a hasty escape on a bike. Despite her efforts to fend off some of the pursuers, she is eventually overwhelmed. Hearing the commotion, Furiosa returns to find the gang torturing Mary on a cross-like frame, trying to extract information about her community. Mary refuses to betray them, and Dementus, the warlord, forces Furiosa to watch Mary's execution and even tastes her tears. The following day, the history man offers to teach Furiosa to read and write, aiming to make her more useful to Dementus. Despite his well-meaning offer, Furiosa remains indifferent, seeming resigned to her silence and her fate. That night, she quietly uses ink to draw a star map on her arm, hoping the celestial map will help her navigate her way back home should the opportunity arise. Days later, as Dementus and his gang traverse the harsh desert landscape, they notice a large plume of red smoke on the horizon. Curious, they decide to investigate. Their search leads them to a war boy from the Citadel. Misinterpreting their inquiry as a search for the Citadel itself, the war boy unwittingly guides them to the Citadel's gates. Upon their arrival, the Citadel's oppressed inhabitants scurry to hide, trembling in fear. Dementus, using a mix of intimidation and promises of freedom, coerces them into helping his gang. The arrival of Immortan Joe, the formidable ruler of the Citadel, shifts the situation. His assistant selects a war boy to communicate, who then performs a dramatic and deadly ritual. He leaps from a bridge, slides down cables, and perishes in a massive explosion. Joe's assistant explains that such sacrifices are commonplace among the war boys, who willingly give their lives in service to Joe. Once Immortan Joe and his entourage have departed, the war boys initiate a sudden and brutal assault on Dementus' gang. The attack is swift and devastating, catching Dementus' men off guard. The war boys, fierce and relentless, inflict heavy casualties among Dementus' ranks. In the ensuing chaos, they seize control of the chain-equipped motorcycles that had been central to Dementus' operations. Amid the turmoil, the captives, Furiosa and the history man, make a desperate attempt to escape. Just in time, Dementus arrives to rescue them, pulling his gang back from the brink and forcing a hasty retreat to regroup and reassess. Their next objective is Gastown, a heavily fortified stronghold in the desert. Dementus and his crew set up an ambush, lying in wait for a convoy to exit the town. As the convoy emerges, they spring their trap, launching a surprise attack that overwhelms the guards with shocking speed. Some of Dementus' bikers, expertly disguised as war boys, commandeer the vehicles and drive them back into Gastown. Meanwhile, Dementus and his men stage a feigned chase, carefully orchestrating a deception to mislead the town's defenders. Initially, The gatekeepers are wary and refuse to open the gates, suspecting a trap. To convince them of the threat's reality, Dementus resorts to drastic measures. He kills several of his own men who had been disguised as war boys, ensuring that the gatekeepers believe the danger is genuine. Faced with this grim display of resolve, the gatekeepers reluctantly open the gates. Dementus and his hidden fighters surge through the opening, launching a coordinated assault that overwhelms the town's defenses. They storm through Gastown, swiftly seizing control and establishing dominance over the stronghold. In the aftermath of their conquest, Dementus sends a chilling message to Immortan Joe, a severed finger from Gastown's leader. This grim trophy serves as both a warning and a taunt. Joe, enraged by the audacity and brutality of the gesture, calls for an urgent meeting. Dementus arrives at Joe's stronghold, dragging with him the tortured Gastown leader, who pleads desperately for mercy from his brother Joe. The meeting quickly descends into violence as Joe's sons, caught up in the tension, start fighting among themselves. In the ensuing chaos, Dementus takes decisive action, retaliating fiercely and ultimately killing the leader. The brutality of the scene underscores the brutal power dynamics at play and sets the stage for the escalating conflict between the factions. Standing before the assembled crowd, Dementus' voice resonates with a menacing authority. With a cold, deliberate tone, he reveals his dark plan. He has strategically placed bombs throughout Gastown, and he alone holds the key to their activation. The threat is unambiguous and chilling. Unless he is granted control over Gastown, he will unleash devastation upon the entire town. His words hang heavy in the air, instilling a deep sense of dread among the residents, and leaving them with the looming fear of total destruction. As the tension mounts, Joe's attention shifts toward Furiosa, prompting Dementus to swiftly fabricate a claim. He asserts that Furiosa is his daughter, a statement that Furiosa vehemently denies. She seizes the moment to expose the truth, accusing Dementus of having murdered her mother. This revelation forces Immortan Joe into a difficult decision. He proposes a deal. Dementus can have control over Gastown, but only if he relinquishes Furiosa and one of his bikers. Though reluctant, Dementus grudgingly accepts the terms, begrudgingly reclaiming the teddy bear he had once given to Furiosa. Following the deal, Joe announces that Furiosa will be added to his collection of wives. She is moved to join the other wives, who are initially kind but soon reveal their own suffering under Joe's rule. Furiosa, disturbed by Joe's oppressive treatment of his wives, grows increasingly despondent. The situation worsens when one of the wives gives birth to a girl, disappointing Joe, who had hoped for a boy. Meanwhile, Joe's son, oblivious to Furiosa's discomfort, persistently touches her hair, causing her distress. In secret, Furiosa keeps a peach seed from her mother, a poignant reminder of her lost family. To maintain her disguise, she cuts her hair short and creates a fake wig using a net and candle wax. When Joe's son attempts to assault her, he pulls on the wig instead of her real hair, giving Furiosa the chance to escape. She hides under a bridge, and though one of her pursuers comes close, his brother, fearing Joe's wrath, discards the wig and leaves. Furiosa soon adopts the guise of a mute boy, blending in with the workers. Her exceptional skills in climbing and agility help her become one of the mechanics, who operate chains to lift old vehicles. Years pass, and her true identity remains concealed as she follows Joe's rules diligently, convincing everyone of her loyalty. The mechanics are soon tasked with constructing a formidable new vehicle known as the War Rig, outfitted with a massive drill dubbed the Bomby Knocker. Praetorian Jack, the top driver, takes the wheel for the first time. However, the War Rig soon falls into a trap set by Dementus' former gang members, now a rival faction. Parachuting down from the skies on their bikes, the attackers swiftly engage the War Rig. Despite the war boys' attempts to fend them off, they are overwhelmed, with some sacrificing themselves to save the vehicle. Amidst the chaos, Furiosa finds herself beneath the War Rig, protected from a bomb explosion. She seizes the opportunity to grab the mechanic's tools and begins repairs. The attackers, using dynamite, try to blow up the rig. Furiosa heroically intervenes, stopping one bomb and repairing the War Rig as Jack continues to drive at high speed. Her efforts contribute to repelling the attackers, though the war boys' numbers dwindle as they sacrifice themselves for a misguided belief in an afterlife. When a truck crashes into the war rig, it dislodges Furiosa's hat, revealing her identity to Jack. With renewed urgency, Furiosa and Jack fend off the bikers, utilizing their combat skills to protect the rig. Furiosa takes out a biker on a kite with a robotic arm and uses arrows to incapacitate another. She instructs the remaining war boy to activate the drill, and as the last enemy approaches, the drill pulls him in, eliminating him and the war boy. After the battle, Furiosa confronts Jack, demanding he stop the rig. Jack, stripped of his previous resolve, proposes they start a new life together, admiring her strength and dismissing any concerns about her gender. He offers to teach her how to survive on the road, and Furiosa, touched by his sincerity, agrees to join him. As they work together on missions for Joe, they visit Gastown to procure fuel, only to find it in disarray under Dementus' ineffective leadership. Dementus spots Furiosa but fails to recognize her due to her significant transformation. He expresses a desire to convene with other leaders, and Jack promises to inform Joe. Their departure is marred by a sudden outbreak of chaos among the townsfolk. Jack and Furiosa make a hasty escape, with Jack defending them against the pursuing crowd. They narrowly escape through the main gate, though Furiosa sustains a stab wound to her shoulder. Jack tends to her injury with care upon their return to their base. During their subsequent discussion, Jack inquires about Furiosa's tattoo, prompting her to recount the tragic story of her parents' deaths. Moved by her tale, Jack expresses a willingness to help her find a place of abundance. Trusting his genuine intentions, Furiosa reveals the precious seed she has been safeguarding and invites him to join her quest. The following day, they set out for Bullet Farm. Upon arrival, they discover that Dementus and his men are already there. As a confrontation looms, Jack signals Furiosa to retreat. Amid the ensuing chaos, Jack battles the attackers, while Furiosa takes down the gatekeeper and supports Jack by shooting from the other side of the gate. Jack then rams through the gate with the rig, but instead of joining Furiosa, he fires a green smoke bomb for backup and continues to assault the enemies with the rig's powerful drill. Feeling betrayed, Furiosa initially drives away but soon returns, plagued by guilt. She infiltrates the enemy's territory as a sharpshooter, managing to inflict a minor injury on Dementus and eliminate several foes. In a dramatic turn, Jack's rig becomes entangled and nearly plunges into a chasm. Furiosa rescues him using a motorcycle and a hook, ensuring their escape. They regroup and plot their next move using Furiosa's map. Meanwhile, Dementus is rescued by an excavator and orders a relentless pursuit using a monster truck. The chase is brutal, with the monster truck's massive tires crushing Furiosa's car and injuring her arm. Jack and Furiosa are captured, with Jack subjected to a grim fate as he is dragged behind a motorcycle, enduring severe injuries. Furiosa, suspended by her wounded arm, is forced to witness Jack suffering helplessly. Dementus lounges on his truck, taking a break as his bikers circle around, kicking up clouds of dust in their wake. After a while, the monotony of watching the dust clouds becomes tiresome, prompting Dementus to check on Furiosa. To his frustration, she has vanished. Furiosa had ingeniously escaped by severing her own arm, and using the swirling dust as cover. As Dementus begins his pursuit, he encounters a clever trap. Furiosa had attached the monster truck's rear tire to an excavator with a chain. Meanwhile, Furiosa, on a motorcycle, struggles as the vehicle runs out of fuel. Exhausted and dehydrated from the searing heat, she collapses. Fortunately, a guard from the Citadel discovers her and brings her to safety. There, a doctor employs maggots to clean her wounds and prevent infection. Once Furiosa regains consciousness, she immediately leaves the medical area and demands to see Immortan Joe. She reveals her true identity as Praetorian Furiosa and alerts Joe to Dementus's impending attack, which includes a large arsenal of weapons. They observe smoke rising in the distance, and Furiosa informs Joe that Dementus is deliberately setting Gastown ablaze to lure Joe away from the Citadel, leaving it vulnerable. Joe devises a plan to mislead Dementus by pretending to head towards Gastown. Furiosa requests the opportunity to confront Dementus herself. Meanwhile, Dementus, noticing the approaching trucks, wrongly believes they are heading for the Citadel. He exults in the prospect of an imminent attack on Joe's stronghold. However, Joe's strategist sends out a signal that causes the trucks to abruptly turn around and return. Over the next 40 days, a fierce and unrelenting battle unfolds on the roads, with Dementus's and Joe's forces engaging in brutal, relentless combat. Amidst the chaos, Furiosa constructs a mechanical arm to aid her in the fight. She approaches the car repair crew and requests a vehicle, preparing herself for the decisive confrontation with Dementus. The only vehicle left at Furiosa's disposal is missing a wheel, but she takes it without hesitation. She tracks down Joe's sons, who are busy working on their cars for the ongoing battle, and stealthily steals one of their vehicles. During this period, a chronicler of significant events dubs her the fifth rider of the apocalypse, marking her as an important figure in their history. A few days later, Dementus and his small band of men are on the move when he discovers that two of his companions have been shot. Spotting an approaching vehicle, he commands his men to split up and prepare an ambush. Furiosa accelerates her car, crashing into motorcycles to clear the way, and zeroes in on the main vehicle. However, she finds that the vehicle is occupied by an old man wearing Dementus' cape, intended to lure her into a trap. Despite this deception, Furiosa wrests the cape from the old man, who falls into a pit of quicksand as a result. Furiosa continues to monitor the bikers, hoping to identify Dementus. She spots a figure with long hair and initially suspects it might be him, but when the figure falls, she realizes it's another trick. Concluding that the real Dementus is likely the biker riding alone, she focuses on him. As Dementus realizes that his water bottle has been tampered with, he steps out from his hiding spot, only to come face to face with Furiosa. In a moment of panic, he tries to shoot her, but his gun clicks empty. With no other options, and seeing the car closing in, Dementus surrenders and drops to his knees, defeated. Furiosa, now wearing Dementus' cape, confronts him with a steely resolve. She demands to know if he remembers her. Dementus, only recognizing her as Jack's ally, attempts to seize her knife but ends up grasping only the broken handle. As his confusion mounts, Furiosa seizes the opportunity and swiftly knocks him out. When Dementus regains consciousness, he finds himself bound and shackled. Furiosa stands before him, her gaze unwavering as she recounts the suffering he inflicted on her and her mother 15 years earlier. Dementus, still unable to piece together her identity beyond that of yet another victim, babbles on endlessly as Furiosa readies herself for the moment of reckoning. Suddenly, Dementus begins to convulse, his body seizing uncontrollably. He collapses to the ground in a fit. Taking advantage of the chaos, Furiosa uses her mechanical arm to shatter his chains and retrieves the teddy bear he had once given her. The sight of the teddy bear sparks a moment of recognition in Dementus, and he finally realizes who she is. In a last-ditch effort to save himself, he proposes an alliance, suggesting they could join forces to become powerful leaders. Furiosa, however, rejects his offer with cold determination and resolves to exact her revenge. Accounts of what happens next vary. Some say that Furiosa ends Dementus' life with a gunshot to the head, while others claim that she binds him to the back of her car and drags him through the wasteland, leaving him hanging from a tree, echoing the fate of her own mother. In truth, Furiosa takes Dementus back to the Citadel, using him as a means to nourish a seed given to her by Mary. Over time, the seed germinates and grows into a lush peach tree, with Dementus serving as an unorthodox but effective fertilizer. As the tree begins to bear fruit, Furiosa uses this newfound symbol of hope and renewal to aid the women under Joe's oppressive control. She helps them escape in a truck, setting into motion the chain of events that will eventually unfold in Mad Max Fury Road. Riley, devastated, gives her father one last hug before he's taken away. As Cooper is about to be loaded into the police car, he props up Riley's old bike. The camera lingers, revealing a missing spoke, a subtle but chilling twist. Cooper has taken the spoke and is already using it to pick the lock on his handcuffs, a sinister grin spreading across his face as he plans his next move.